Welcome to AU Online. Don't be left out in the code. Starring Chad Studer. Sorry, I always wanted to say that. So welcome to Online Virtual Vegas. My name is Chad Studer. I'm with ADSK Solutions. I've been with them a little over 10 years. Also got some industrial experience like yourselves, a lot of you out there. For a little over 10 years, my CAD experience started back in VersaCAD, and then when CAD actually ran on DOS, we didn't even know what icons were. So a little over 10 years there, and I also do high-definition laser scanning for running any of the Leica instruments, high-definition surveying, and a little over 10 years experience with that is a Leica trainer as well. So to make you feel more like you're in Vegas, I put some games up here on the right that you can play. As we go through the class, if you get bored, you just go ahead and click on those. So go ahead and click on any of those that you want to play now so it loads for you. And while you're doing that, I just want to, again, make you feel like you're here in Vegas. The only difference between you and myself here is I have the badge, and you guys probably aren't wearing yours back home there. All right, so everybody got in their game, I hope. Actually, I was just kidding about the game. I can't support gambling in any way. It was just for looks, but it's kind of funny if any of you did click on that. So Civil 3D, as anybody knows who's worked with Civil 3D in the past, you've opened it or started to load it or been running it for several years now. It's about styles, styles, and styles. And styles have to be set up. You have alignments, profiles, cross-sections, corridors. Everything's about the styles, and you get the default set up, and it's going to run great. Well, along with styles, the one that we want to start with today and concentrate on is the code set styles. It's going to control the display of the corridor. Well, if you're doing profile styles, alignment styles, and these different ones, wouldn't it make sense you just go to corridor and you'd adjust the corridor style to make it appear the way that you want to? Well, that's not the case. In here, you have regional boundaries, you have assembly insertion stations. So there are benefits using the corridor style, but not what we're going to concentrate on today. We want to talk about the display of the corridor. And I think it's one of the most difficult styles to configure. And that's kind of hard to say because profiles were a pretty big challenge when I first started Civil 3D back in 2004. Remember, you had the profile view, the profile style, and the profile band sets. You label the station, and then you see it again in the band. So I don't know which one's tougher. I think after you get through all those, you're just kind of ready to actually get work done and meet those deadlines. So this one gets skipped over the most. So I'll leave it with the most difficult one, or maybe the most ignored. The way to relate to the code set styles and displaying that corridor is think of it as a multi-view block. What's it going to look like in your plan view? What's it going to look like in model view? If you want to take it visually or in your cross-section views. And it's not just for the display. It's really a great way to get the engineering data out of that model. And we're going to express that as we go a little bit farther. Also, what about the assemblies and sub-assemblies that you put in there? Why do they have pink and orange and cyan hatch patterns in there? It doesn't look like a really engineering function or the data that you need in there. And you can see here, this would be more appropriate. It's just a matter of setting it up. Once it's in your template, you just reuse it over and over again. Something I just noticed this morning when I went through this one last time, if you're looking at that, I'm calling out all the data in the typical section here. And I'm from Michigan, and no, we don't use 12-inch crushed stone. If you look at the bottom there, it's supposed to be crushed stone. I just didn't have time to go back and change it and update everything. But it does pull the data automatically, and you can adjust any of that. So to give you an idea, what we're going to do today, and an idea of where you might have been in the past, is you're setting up styles, you create a corridor. A lot of people just open up the program and they use National CAD standards. Well, if you do that, this is what the corridor looks like right off the bat. And this isn't what we'd want to print or show. If you look real close, you can see those magenta lines in here, and those are links. We need to hide a lot of that data. And also, like I mentioned, the typical section, look at all the hatch patterns. Okay, we don't need to show that. We can actually show the materials for those typical sections as well in here. So the goal of the presentation is to show your corridor to look more like this. And unfortunately, I got the black background, so it's not showing up exactly the way I hoped it would. But if you look real close, you can really see you have the curb lines, the edge of pavement, sidewalks, as well as the right-of-way. Simply select this, and as soon as we go to our model view, you'll see that it's presented with the data that I want to show inside here. You can see the typical section and all of the lines running along with that. Also, I might want to show the corridor in my sections views. Whether I want to print those or just review them, you can see that not only do I have the data here, but I have information labeled on there. So you see 2%, 12-foot wide lane, and if you look even farther, you can see I have the right-of-ways called out. And that is all part of one corridor code set. Now, as we elaborate with this, we can add additional code sets. It's really hard to combine all of them into one. Simply selecting it and go over here and change this to a different code set. In this case, I called it visualization. And now when I go to my object viewer or in plan view, it's going to look quite a bit different. So let me zoom in here and just change the visual style to realistic. This would work in plan view as well, and it would instantly give you the visual effect that you're looking for. And I could turn off the right of way in that case if we want, but you can see very easily there, it looks like the actual roadway with asphalt, curb and gutter, sidewalk as well, and some grass. And I'll zoom in there for you to see that. So that's the goal of today's presentation. I just want to take a moment there to show you, if you pay attention till the end, that's where I'm going to put the foundation for you to get to during the presentation. You can definitely want to elaborate after this class to get much farther, but should give you a great start. So I only have about 50 or 60 more slides to go, so hang in there. I'm just kidding. We only have a few, and we're going to bounce back and forth to make sure you guys are awake out there. So we're going to concentrate on code set styles and setting this up. The idea is you're going to have 3 components that make up each of these code sets. They're going to be links, points, and shapes. We're going to break these down for you. Where do you find these? And these are in your settings tab with all the rest of your styles in Civil 3D. Over here is general, multi-purpose styles, code set styles. So as you get these generated, you'll see the different ones that I have created over here on the left. The default one that's going to be assigned is all codes. So where do we begin here? Talking about the 3 different types that we're going to add. We have the links, points, and shapes, like I mentioned. We're going to go ahead and start talking about the links first. If you downloaded the printout that I gave you, I think I might have put points in there first, and links flowed a little bit better. So you might have to skip down a little bit on that handout. So links, they actually run perpendicular. Those were those magenta lines. So if we look real close here, those are the lines when you create a corridor that are going perpendicular to that baseline, that alignment. Those are the ones you don't want to show in plan view, at any time, or at least put them on a no plot layer. Works really well, is fine too. Either way that you want to handle that. For today's class, we're going to just remove those. Now, to elaborate a little bit more on links, there are also the lines here to break it down farther with the white background here. The solid paved portion here is a link. These links are actually all the way across the entire subassembly, and they're built into each subassembly and then applied to the assembly. So number 1 here is the top, and this top is also part of the curb. It would be part of the sidewalk as well. And notice they have 2 numbers here. 1 means it's associated with the top code, so if I want to build a surface from the entire top, it could do that. I could also build one from a datum surface, and that would be all the links along the bottom. Well, they call it out with 2 different codes, so this would be the top, or maybe I want to build a surface just for the pavement. It's also going to help us out later with adding materials, realistic effects. So notice 1 would be the top, 2 would be a pavement link as well. So if we look over here, it also helps build surfaces. So to show you how it does that, and to kind of give you a little bit better understanding of this as well, we're going to switch over to the drawing that we were just in. Hopefully everybody's familiar with making a corridor surface. I just want to show you where links are stored in here. So I go to my corridor properties, I build a surface. We'll just call it finished ground in here, whatever the surface style. And up here at the top are the codes. These are the links stored from those templates. There's top and there's pavement. If I use just the pavement, that would only be between the curb and gutter, the edge of travel way in there, the flow line. In this case, I just use top. That'd be all the way across the top, including the daylight lines. And if you do that, of course, we always use the top links, and then we can build that surface. So hopefully that gives you an idea of the links. They're included in the subassemblies and easy to add the information in here, and you can see the surface is created. We can also take the links a lot farther than that. Instead of just for display, we're going to use them for engineering data. The links are, again, all the lines go on perpendicular, so we can label any of these with a simple label style. Any style you've generated labels for before is going to be the same thing in here. So in here I put 2% across the edge of pavements. If I had slopes, very popular from section view, you want to put 4 on 1, 3 on 1, 2 on 1, you want to label that. Maybe you want anything to do with these links, the sidewalk, the grade, the width, all of that is a simple label on those links. We can also add the visual style, like you saw me put in there earlier. Right? So all we do is change the information in there for the links to display this, and you're going to instantly get the true asphalt, the concrete, the grass materials. And I'm going to show you all this as we get going here the next half hour, but the one I want to point out and make sure you guys work on after this class is you can attach materials, actually hatch patterns as well. So I'd like to bring in a subassembly to my assembly, and it actually shows you the topsoil that you're going to remove, and then add a hatch pattern just like I'm going to do to the real world materials, and it would actually display any of the topsoil that's being removed with its own hatch pattern. So it saves you a few steps so someone doesn't have to go in there manually and do those things. Also, you can generate the pay items automatically. Using links, it'll create the area for you. So for the area of asphalt, the concrete for the sidewalk, the sod for the, between the sidewalk, all of that can be generated using the code sets as well. So let's take a look at the code sets real quick here to kind of resemble what I'm talking about at all, to give you guys an idea. So back to the settings tab, we're going to browse through here, and you probably found multi-purpose styles in the past and looked at them once, and it's overwhelming. Okay, we got to break these down a little bit. So we've been talking about link styles, and inside here's an entire list of link styles that I've added. A lot of these come with the National CAD standards, so I've left them in there. These are a simple code that's going to show you what color the lines are going across this subassembly. If you look really close in there, you can see lines. And each one of those is a style and how you want to display it. That's also why this is magenta up there at the top. So if we wanted to create a brand new one, you would just go new. We'll say that this is, pavement. Put a good description in there. And do we want to display it? Well, where do you want to display it at? Plan view, model view, and section view. So we're going to make it simple. In plan view, yes, I want to display this link, and I would change the color for what I want to display. Well, plan view, we don't want to see these, so I would turn this off. And then you could go up here, and for model view, I do want to see it, and then maybe assign the color for it. And you want to see it in section view. And that's what we're going to break down over the next few minutes here. So again, very easy to make those links. And once you make those links, they're all going to be held inside the code set styles. And this is what the whole class is about right here. The code set styles. The example I'm showing here, and comes with the National CAD Standard template, is right here. So let's take a quick look at this. Under the code tab, we have link, and here's all the different links associated. We have all the styles, label styles, the render materials. So here's the name of the links that you combine. So if you have a daylight or the pavement that we talked about before, would be over here in this list. We add the pavement style so we get the color we want and have it show in model view. No label style unless you want to put the 2% grade on there. Render material, we can add that like the paving. And then the material, the hatch we talked about. And the pay item, we can associate that as well. Now when you start with these, I just think it's too much work to put the link point and shapes in here. There's so much data all at once. So let's make it real simple. And let's go over here, and just like you can do when you run through this class on your own, is just start a brand new one from scratch. Just to make sure that there's no magic tricks. I'm not pulling anything out of my sleeve. It's all right here in the program. Just start a brand new one. We can call this whatever we want. To start out, start basic. Let's name this plan. Now when you go to codes, the first thing I learned in here is make it simple. Go in here and create one for no display. And the reason I say no display is when you display this, plan view, not visible, model view, not visible, and section view, not visible. Turn them all off. Okay? And the reason I do that, it's easy to know what I want to turn on and find it instead of going through 50 codes and trying to pick which one's right and which one's not. And we're going to talk about points, we're going to talk about shapes as we go as well. But just take every one of these right off the bat, set these to no display, because later we're going to generate a lot of codes, and this is what it's going to inherit by default, the no display for each one of these. And I just put an asterisk or underscore in there, so it's right at the top and easy to find. This also breaks it down very easily for the links to show you can associate a style, a label style, a render material, the material area, and the pay item again. Not all of the features are going to have that, so each one of these that we talk about are going to be unique. So let's break down each one of these as well. So talking about the links, we hopefully have a very good understanding of that at this point, and now we want to talk about codes. The codes, or I guess the code set style would be the points and shapes. So now we're going to talk about the points. The points are the information at the end of each link. And they're going to each mark, a unique location. So if you take a look here, each one of these are the links like we looked at in the subassembly. I think this one shows it very well, L1, L2, L3. Well, at the end of each one of these links is a code, P1, P2, and all the way through there. P1 would be represented as the crown. P2 is edge of travelway. That's going to be for everything, either the flow line, the back of curb, the daylighting link, all that information is going to be displayed. Well, each one of these can also have label information, 12-inch wide lane, back of curb, 14 feet. You can attach the data like we did for the links going perpendicular. The codes are in there to mark the exact location of this information. And a very popular one is to be able to label the right-of-way. You put a marked point in there with like a link slope data or put an offset of 33 feet in there, and it's going to show this, add a label to it, and it displays it. I'm not going to get that far today to show you how to do the right-of-way label, but if you shoot me an email or do a search on the internet, there's a lot of blogs out there, video webcasts that will show you exactly how to put that in there as well. But that's all generated from your points. Also, you can put pay items associated to each one of these as well. So if I want to do total length of curb, I would do that through the, your points. The links do area, the points are going to do the linear feet. So make sure you do that. When you're done with your assembly, your corridor construction, you can import anywhere these codes are, and it will each be represented with Civil 3D points, and you can create a stakeout. Any of those points, top points, whatever you want, just import the ones that are needed and create that stakeout report. And most important with the code sets is they generate, and through each code, connects feature lines. So in here, each one of these codes is generating a feature line, and we got to make sure that we set that in the very beginning. So if we have edge of pavement, back of curb, they're typically all the lines that go parallel, right? The links go perpendicular, these are going to go parallel. So I put typically because this also does your daylighting. The daylighting it's kind of relative parallel, but it's not going to be perfect in there. And each one of these are controlled by a style, and we need to set those up. And this is also under the multi-purpose styles, feature line style. So let's jump in there real quick. Let's get this started. Let's begin that feature line. So inside here, right above the code set style is the feature line style. You can see I've already generated quite a few of these, so we can quickly just plug and play. But what you'll need to do is go in, create a new one, and you would name this. So again, maybe I do plan, edge of travel way, or back of curb. Whatever ones we want to show in plan view is what you have to create in here. If you want to show in profile or section view, you can do that, but it's not really necessary for the code sets. So I'm going to go right to the display tab. Do I want to see this in plan view? Yes. What color is it going to be? And I quickly assign that. I assign it a line type, and I assign it a layer. Do I want to see it in model view? When I go to 3D, do I want to display it? And I just set mine so they're nice and gray. They're kind of in the background when I go to 3D like you saw earlier. And do I want to see it in section view? Well, these are running long way, so you do not need to see these in section view, so I always just turn these off. After you generate each one of those that you want to display, as you can see up here, the sidewalk, the daylight lines, edge of pavement, again, whichever ones you want plan view, make sure you create, as you can see in my list here. After you generate those, we have to add them to our code set. So we've created one called plan, so I'm going to go back and quickly make some changes here. This is the point, and I have a couple of the codes in here already. Well, how do I get the edge of pavement? How do I get the back of curb? All these that I keep naming, how do I get them in here? I got to make every single one of them and know them? That's going to be a lot of work. Just go down here to the right, click on Import Code. You can select the corridor if you have one made, but either way, you can just select the assembly because you should have that in the drawing already. And that brings in all the codes that you want to work with automatically. Everything that's part of that assembly that you're trying to work with is already loaded in there, so you should be all set. Simply go down the list. So in this case, here's daylight, feature line styles. You look up here, and I can quickly just change this to daylight. I named all mine with the COR, so let me just go ahead and change these. There's a daylight cut. Put something in there unique, maybe your company initials or whatever that is, so you know right off the bat that you have that. And again, I use the COR to grab mine. And there's the fill. We'll add one more here. I'm not going to bore you by adding all these. I just wanted to show you that I could generate this. Let me just add one more. Flow line gutter. This is just a cyan line. So real quick here, let me just address that. This would actually work as edge of travel way. And real quick, I want to go up here to my links, and notice I put no display for all these. So I'm going to go ahead and create the one called plan. And the way that you change your code sets after you've already generated it, you just go over here to profiles. Properties, and just select the one that we created called plan. Keep an eye on those magenta lines. I know it's really hard to see with the black background. Maybe I'll switch it here so you can see it a little bit better. But the idea, they all disappeared. What didn't happen is none of my feature lines updated. Okay, why not? Well, it's not truly dynamic. When you create the codes, or when you create the corridor, it only creates the feature lines once, and they're held inside the corridor. So inside the corridor and our feature lines, it already has all these styles built. Okay, so you have to set it up in the very beginning. If you're going to make notes, this is a very good time to do it, and a very smart time to watch how this is done. So I quickly erase this corridor, and under the The settings, I go look for corridor, and there's edit feature settings. When you first build the corridor, you have to set the default style for this code set style. Now, I didn't go in and set every single one of them for my plan view because I didn't want to bore you. So I'm going to use AU plan. That just means I set every single feature line the way I wanted to with the correct colors. With that added in here is my default settings. Now when I create this corridor, it's going to show all of the feature lines the way that I intended. Otherwise, I would have had to go in and reassign every single one and modify it. So we'll just, so we can see the daylight lines, we'll add the EG surface, and just like that, we have plan view looking exactly the way we want to now. And again, I know that background's kind of hard to see, but you can see the cyans in there now, the daylight lines are in there, the sidewalk are nice white lines, and the daylighting looks real good. So very simple to do the plan view. Just make sure you set the feature line styles up the way you want to display them. Turn off all the links, turn off all the shapes. You don't need any of that data in here for the plan view. Now what we're going to do is take that plan view that we just created, and to make sure everybody's still awake out there and everybody's paying attention, I'm going to take the AU plan. We're going to do something real quick. I'm just going to make a copy of this. Okay? And using that, I'm just going to get rid of this. I'm just going to call this Viz for Visual Styles. Go to my codes and show you how easy this is. If you remember what links do, links assign the render material as well. So I go over here and I take a look at curb. Well, do I want to show the curb? Yes. What material do I want to use? By default, the National CAD standards already have these. Just drag and drop them in. They're also in your tool palette to get these materials. I simply look and locate concrete pattern. I want to add it to the daylight cut and the daylight fill. I want to be grass and daylight. So we select these real quick, and I just change this to daylight or grass short. You know, that's going to be your side. I go down the list here. Here's pavement. What the heck? We'll just do all these. It's going to be very quick. So pavement is asphalt. Sidewalk would be concrete. Let's grab the concrete again. Don't forget the side. That's a link, and that would be grass as well. So grass short. Simply click OK, and that's going to, now I made a new code set. So now these will update when I go over here to properties, and I change this to the new one I just created called Viz. And I go to my object viewer. Just like that, we created two new code sets. Okay, one for plan and one for the visual styles. The only thing you see in there that needs fixed is I have the links showing or the shapes. So let's quickly fix that in this style under the one I created, Viz. I must not have set that to no display. So let's go in here real quick, take all of these, and make sure these hold that no display style. And let's make sure that was set for links too. No links, no shapes for the visual style. All you're going to show are the links. So back to the object viewer. I should have this set up the way that I want to, and that looks pretty good very quickly, right? Didn't take much time at all. It's a default now. Every time you create a corridor, change it to visual, and this is what you have inside 3D. Any oohs and ahs for that one? Nothing? How about like you just won the jackpot? You know, it's ding, 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 ding. You just you got all the coins coming out of the slot machine. I actually hit the jackpot yesterday when I got here. It was really cool. The siren went off and everything. Unfortunately, I looked closer, and the siren just meant that the machine needed change, so I didn't actually win anything, unfortunately. So again, you're not missing anything. Online is a great way to learn everything as well. So that's two code sets that we're familiar with already, and we should hopefully understand links very well, the point codes, and the feature lines. So the last one that brings us to is talking about shapes. Shapes are the actual objects of each of these that we want to display, the closed area of each of these subassemblies. So to really show you that in detail, look up here in the red. Each one of these is like a closed polyline, and they have information attached to that. So you can see in here is a shape code called Pave 1. The next one's Pave 2, depending on the subassembly, what the name is going to be. But this is pretty much general the way it's going to be, base and subbase in here. You can always set the dimensions to get the information you want, and that's how you can have it pull the information down here when you label everything as well. So in here we have the shapes, the hatch pattern. In this case, you know, the orange, the magenta, the cyan colors, you don't need those, right? We want to make them and change the hatch patterns to look like this. So we're going to do both of those. And also want to show you could extract the material volumes from each one of these shapes. And you know, that's just part of the material volumes when you calculate that. So let's take a quick look inside here, back in the drawing, we already created the two, and the next one we want to take a look at is the shapes, and how do we get this to look right in two scenarios. One is model view for the shapes, and the other one is your section view that we showed earlier. So I'm going to go back, and I'm going to set this back to the AU plan view that we created earlier. Inside that plan view, I would probably make a copy of it at this time, and because we already got two of them that work very well. So I'd make another one and copy this and call it AU plan/model. I want to show this in model view. I'm just going to edit this one and go back to the links, and these are all set to no display. Well, for model view, you might want to start customizing these and give them some unique names. And I would say, okay, do I want to see the links in the model view? Well, that's not really necessary. What about the shapes, what we just got talking about? I do want to see these in my model view. So I'd go in here for base, and I want to create some of these. So just go ahead and click on this, and I'll show you that you can edit this, or let's create a brand new one. Again, that's over on this list, just like we saw feature line styles, link styles, shape styles over here under the multi-purpose styles. Or you could do it right here and create a brand new one. And this one we'll just put in there, and we'll call it pavement. So this would be for displaying all the pavement. Well, in each shape, you have a border that goes around the hatch pattern, and then you have the actual hatch pattern itself. So in here, I simply tell it what color I want for the hatch pattern, and what color do I want for the border line. So I typically assign this a white, so it really stands out. And what do I want to look like in the color? Now, we're not showing the shape in plan view, right? So just turn these off. We're looking at model view now. So go to model, and now set it up for what you want to see. In model, yes, I want this to be white, and I want the shape area to be a gray. I can put it on layers if we want. And this is the hatch pattern where we assign that. And I'll come back and show you that as well in a little bit. But solid is fine for me in 3D. It doesn't take up as much memory. And again, you don't even have to display the hatch patterns. It just kind of looks cool. It's not necessary. And I also want to see this in my section view. So I simply go up here and change these to white. And I want to show that a gray. And what color gray do I want to see that in section view again? So very important to set that. Again, make sure, I like the unique names. Like this now would be plan and model. How do I want to associate that? Just something very common so you know instantly that it's connected to the right code set. And we could add that right into the base there so it shows up gray. And I could also add that same one to these pavements. Or maybe you want the base and subbase different colors. But the idea is you just associate those styles to the shapes. Simply doing that now, when you go in here to your object viewer, you're going to see the information that you want to display. Okay, those are each of the shapes that we put in here. I just made the base called pavement, and it's the same color as the concrete. Again, each one can be unique. You'll notice when you make the base that you are missing a couple of things in here. You need to add a couple of the links. Why is that? Well, if you go down here and take a look, you don't always have these shapes. You might have simple links, and that also includes your daylighting over here. So we want to make sure we get those to show up in the model view as well. So back under that AU plan, I want to go up here to the links, and in here I know between the sidewalk was a sod, so I have to go change the style. If I want to leave no display, that's fine, but I have to turn this on, and if I turn it on, it's going to turn them on for all no displays. So I have to make a unique one in here. In this case, I believe I have one for sod. Let me see real quick where that is. If not, we'll make one. I have to get my glasses on. We're going to try this plan side, and as a matter of fact, we'll check it. So plan view's turned off. I want to see it in model view, and yes, it's gray. So it should look pretty good. And the other one was the daylighting. So let's make sure we have the links turned on for the daylighting. Daylight fill. So maybe that could be what I would suggest. I typically turn these on for green and red. As you can see, there's green for the fill, and of course for the cut, I like that to show up red. So I simply set up a style for this. I'm just going to assume that one's red. And the daylight, I usually use yellow just to show that it's matching there between the cut and the fill. All right, so hopefully you can see all the links now. You can see I actually turned that on in plan view as well, if you like that or not. But when I go to 3D, now I have all of the shapes and the links that are important to me. And again, this is something for you to customize and to show this data the way that you want to. This is just a suggestion, and I'm just breaking down when to show the links, when to show the shapes, and to set up multiple views. But what I've done here, to sum it up, is, we created one for plan view so far. We combined it with one for model, and also we're going to create one for the section view. As long as you turned everything on I did for model in the section view as well, when you go to section view, it would look just like this. But what you want to do is take the section view a step farther. Again, I could copy this already if we wanted to, but let's keep working with this to show you to build off of this. So I'm going to go back to the same one we had for plan. And in these links, we want to put, instead of just for display, we want to add data. We want to be able to see what I think is very important is you're going through these cross sections in the section view, where's the data coming from? How do I know as I'm going through an intersection, the grade's changing from 2% to 1%? How do I know when I'm daylighting and it's 4 to 1 and the guardrail's in the right place to go to 3 on 1? Well, simply up here under the links, go up here, and let's use pavement is one of the ideas and suggestions. I add a label style. Simply click on the label style. We can go in and create a new one. By default, I believe it's already set up to show flat grades and also steep grades. Steep grades mean slopes, 4 on 1, 2 on 1, however that's going to be set up. And again, that's part of the National CAD standard. You can simply drag and drop that in. To show you from default here, it's real simple too. Just create a brand new one. We'll say that this is pavement. Looks like I like pavement today. I keep using that. I wish that was a number that I could use, like playing, roulette, number 14 or 17. I don't think I can play pavement, but it's pretty much stuck in my head today, so we're going to use that. How about this will give me some luck if I do play tonight, so we'll call it pavement 14. Under general, then, this is the same settings as you do with all the other styles, point styles, your label styles, everything. So I'm not going to review this with you, but under the layout tab, the contents, all you do is tell it what data that you want to put on this link. Just make sure you're doing the links. The links are going to be the perpendicular ones. The codes, the point codes are locations. And simply click in here, and this is the information that you can display. Grades, link codes, link length, slope length. Simply add the one that you want. And that's the information you can put in there, again, like all the other labels. And we're going to put link grade in there. So you can see this is going to give you that information. And now with that marked in there, I should have everything set correctly. And you can see this is in the label style. Now, one thing that you want to make sure that you do, and again, remember I had you write only one thing down earlier? This is very important to write down too. When you go to your cross-section view, it's going to use the one called All Codes, which is loaded initially with the National CAD standards or whatever the default is. If you create two different styles, like visual style or plan style, and you have a different one here to go to section view, you have to go down to the corridors again. And you can't locate this one under corridor. You have to go to commands. And I don't know how many times I go to a company, and I've done this forever too. I go to view edit corridor sections, and when it comes up, I have to go in there and change the style to get it to look the way I want to, even though I configured it the way I want. Make sure you look for this view edit corridor sections. Edit the command settings, and when it comes up, you have a default style. You can set the code set style for only when you view and edit the sections. So make sure you go over there and assign it exactly what you want. In this case, mine is assigned the same one I used earlier. So if you coordinate them all correctly, this will work. But I wanted to show you that you could also set this with the one that you want. And this is the one that I displayed earlier, AU, plan, and model. And this should do my section views with all the labels the way I want to. So now I simply select this, and it's going to use the one that I created earlier. And there's my view edit sections. And you can see it's really hard to see the label. So let's show you real quick here. Again, that black background, I just changed it to gray for you here. But let's change this now to the one that I did. I believe I had white text, right, for the AU plan. So to show you how easy that is to change, when I go to view edit sections now, it should use that one. I guess it was the blue. But if you look real close, I don't know if you'll see it, but it labels in there minus 2%, and it has the label in there for you. And it should have been white for you. If it doesn't come up, you can simply go in here. But you'd have to do this every time, and you could change this for what you want to show. And it looks like I happen to do them both blue, unfortunately. But there's all codes. Let's see if this one happens to be white. Nope, they didn't label theirs. But very easy to change and customize. The last one I want to show you today, before we wrap things up, is what about the typical section? Well, that's pretty much identical to what we've been doing. The only thing you have to do for this code set style, go back up, the one you've been working with, make another copy of this, call this typical, TYP for typical sections. Go down to codes. I don't think you really have to worry about anything. I don't use any of the point codes. To show you real quick, the point codes are these little blue codes that mark each one. They're the ones when you grab a subassembly and you attach one to the other, that's what it's displaying, when you pick that. Okay, so you don't even have to show that. So let's go back to typical. Let's go ahead and just set all these in no display. Oh, they're already set because we did that earlier. The links, I like showing the links for whatever is in there already in plan view, so I'll leave that set the way they are. I don't need the links because I have the shapes, right? All the shapes are going to show me that. So I would just go in here and I say, okay, I want to see a shape, pavement. We already have that one set, but I set them real quick in here as well to make it easy. I put an A in front of each one to be assembly. Pavement 2, A for assembly, so assembly, plan pavement 2. I have this set, but let's see if I can change them all real quick for each of you. A, plan sidewalk, and subbase. Okay, there we go. Well, what I'm doing to kind of show you that is the only thing I did in this style is I went in and said in plan view, not model, plan view now, I want to see the actual shapes. And in plan view, the shape area, okay, there's the same colors I used before. I just had to turn it on. And the pattern is different now. So I went in here and changed the hatch. Instead of a solid, I went in here to predefined, and I browsed to the shape that I want to show. So this is bit. So I use ANSI 31. And for the first bit, I used the 0, and I changed the scale so it shows up correctly. To show you what I did for the second pavement, I made a different one for this. It's the same thing. I turned it on in plan view. That's the key for your typical sections to show correctly. And I went in here and changed the angle to 180. So I have the, the two types of bit, one going this way and one going this way. And then, of course, the base, the sand, the gravel, we can assign that as well. Just like we did for the links or the points, you can add a label style. And for the pavement, I went in here and I also associated a pavement style in here. And in this list, let's go ahead and create one. And inside here, if we create a new one, or just like labels before, you click on this, and it will automatically show you the shape codes. Or if you want to show the area, you can take it a step farther. The options are shape codes, code descriptions, and shape area. So again, just like the rest of the information you want to display, you just get rid of the data and simply tell it that maybe a shape code description. So I just put in here one real quick. And this time I'm taking it off by layer. I'm going to make sure that that shows up white for you. And it will then, again, display that data for us in that shape. Because we created a new code set over there, you simply grab the assembly. It does not show the corridor the same way. It's only going to show the assembly. So you can have a different style assigned to the corridor instead of the assembly. And you can set a default style as well. When you go to your alignment properties, you can go to codes and you can just change this to the typical one that we created. And whoops, I got to turn on a couple of links there for the plan view. But you can see that we have, it's kind of hard to see the black background again, unfortunately. But if you look at the bit real close, hopefully you can see these lines in here were added. Okay? And on your screen, I'm seeing kind of a dashed lines, but the bits go in the correct ways. And again, I'm not sure if I created one, but we could switch it in here for one I have finished. To show you a quick second, you would then turn on the links like we did before for the sod. So this is plan sod. Just to show you that real quick, create one. Not sure if I did this or not. AU, yep, A plan sod for assembly plan sod. And we'll quickly add the daylight fill link to be only for the assembly. We'll add the cut too, so it looks a little bit better. So this is turning these on in plan view, right? I'm not sure if I'm going to grab all of those, but you can simply see it grab the sod, it grabbed the daylighting, and all I'd have to do is turn on the curb now. So let me switch over to the drawing that looks great and shows you the information accordingly. And again, instead of actually putting in there the information, using the magenta, just change the shape styles to show it the way you want to. So as you can see here, the bit is definitely going the opposite directions. You have some gravel, some sand in here as well. You have the link labels included on the assembly style, as well as your curb, call-outs, and the information here, as well as the crust stone, I guess, there that I accidentally loaded in. So you can call this information out the way you want to. And you can change the codes, so you could have left and right ones differently. I think that's in the handout to show you where the codes are stored and to modify that. We also have the 4-on-1 slopes. That would be the links, as well as the right-of-way information over here, all part of the point code sets. So now you won't be left out in the code. I hope this is a great foundation for everyone to get started. To kind of summarize what we did is a couple of things. You have to give you a great understanding of links, points, shapes. The links are the perpendicular ones. You have to make sure that's the information that you want to label when you do it. The plan view, we turned off all the links and all of the points, or at least put them on no plot layers to make it look very, very simple. In model view, we made sure all the feature lines were turned off, and we turned off all the points, and I just turned on shapes and some of the links. Again, start simple. Start with a plan view. You don't have to try and make the mega code set style the very first time. Start small, do a plan view, get that to work, make a copy of it. Now build off of that and take the plan and model together, and then add to the section view and just put the labels in that section view that you need. At the plan view, once you get that one working correctly, make a copy of it and just go in there in the visual styles, add the materials for those links. Again, that's under your tool palette. Go to materials, just drag and drop those in, and you should be all set. After you, again, could add more labels if you want to as well. Then start, combine those views, elaborate with what I've shown you. These are the basics. There's a lot more information out there that you can put in plan view. The earthwork quantities. Make sure you take a look at the quantity information. There's a simple pay item tab that you click on. If you didn't get to see it yet, take a look at a class, how to add quantities, how to get quantities reports. You're using the corridor. You might as well use that for the area. The information is being generated. Grab that as part of your code set and use it. And also your right-of-way information can be included with that code set as well. And again, thank you for joining my class here. A couple of resources to help you out. It's Autodesk University. I'm sure everybody found that website. Also, avatech.com. I believe we have a link up there to show you the right-of-way and information up there to get you a little bit farther with this. And, of course, you feel free to email me any questions. We'll open up for the Q&A after this. But later on down the road, if you run into anything, feel free to shoot me an email, and we can definitely discuss some options and maybe some goals and things that you have to see if it's possible. So, again, thank you for joining us.